Picture a stylish 2+2 coupe of the 60s and 70s with head-turning looks and a Ford Essex V6 under the bonnet. No, not that one. This one. The Reliant Scimitar GTE might not have the cult following and the skyrocketing values that the Ford Capri does, but for me, it could be the clever man's choice. Let's take this one for a drive and I'll explain why. Reliant's Scimitar SE4 was a good attempt to drag the brand a little bit more upmarket. It showed promise with its distinctive styling, its lightweight and its Ford V6 power plant. But sadly it was too expensive, it wasn't up there in the quality stakes compared to conventional rivals, and as a result it never really sold all that well. But there was potential in it, and it was Tom Caron, the man famous for designing much of the 1970s, who we sadly lost a couple of years ago, who saw more of that potential. He approached Reliant with his proposal for a 4-seat Scimitar, what he would name the SE5. Management loved Caron's mock-up. It was handsome, it was sharp, it was exotic, and it was now of shooting brake design. And what became known as the Reliant Scimitar GTE was, I think, a glorious bit of styling. You can see it's still got that Reliant edge to it. It's a little bit left field and different, but it's cool, it's exotic, it's got these sharp lines. It's a great looking car, this, and it does stand out in a big way. The shooting brake rear end is even more appealing to my eye because you still get the coupe body style, but you get all the practicalities of an estate, a bit like an MGB GT, but even bigger and better. In fact, everyone within Reliant was so keen that Caron's Scimitar GTE proposition make production, it had just a 12-month gestation period after that initial meeting for the concept design. And it's incredible what such a small and cash-strapped company managed to achieve in that time. Taking the Scimitar GT SE4 as a base, the GTE's platform was longer and wider to give it more space and to make it more comfortable. It got all-new suspension, it got an all-new 78-litre big capacity fuel tank that was relocated to make more cabin space, it got a whole new cooling system, and the spare wheel was moved into the nose to not only improve weight distribution, but offer more cabin space. That's an incredible amount of work to do for a company that didn't have two bob to rub together, really. And so it came to be. The all-new Reliant Scimitar GTE with its 3-litre Ford Essex V6 was revealed at the 1968 London Motor Show. And what a splash it made! A sub 1200 kilo, exotically styled 2+2 that allegedly was capable of over 120 miles an hour. This is a cottage industry company primarily famous for making plastic-bodied three-wheelers, don't forget. And one part of that heritage did remain with the GTE. Reliant still didn't really have the money or the facilities to make a steel-body car, and making it out of fiberglass meant it was lighter, it meant it was rust-resistant, and that meant it didn't need a huge amount of power to go quickly. But that didn't mean Reliant weren't prepared to invest in making the Scimitar GTE a more refined upmarket proposition. Within a year, this could be had with an automatic gearbox and overdrive on the manual, which meant it a more long-legged GT cruiser. By 1972, the SE5A was launched, which had more horsepower out of the 3-litre V6 and an all-new moulded dashboard. And let's come on to that interior, actually. It's a really, really nice place to be. This particular car has got the passenger seat missing because it's being retrimmed, so you'll have to excuse that. But other than that, it's lovely. I've got vinyl on all the surfaces, these nice leather seats. I've got a really nice chunky sports steering wheel, oodles of gauges, and while there is the odd bit of slightly cheap feeling switchgear, and I feel sure that's a Morris Marina door handle down there, as with half the British car industry of the 1960s and 70s had, it's a nice place to be, and it's roomy. I'm over 6 feet tall and I really don't feel hemmed in. I've got tons of room here. You'd get passengers behind me with ease, adult ones at that, and a huge boot that's really capacious. You could put golf clubs in it, you could take luggage away for a week on holiday. This is a more practical proposition than a Capri, I would argue, and even more so as a classic when the fiberglass body won't rust like a Capri does. So you're thinking a fiberglass bodied car with some recycled switchgear, someone else's V6 under the bonnet, and a platform that was already in production. Must be pretty cheap and cheerful too, right? Well, no. The Scimitar GTE at launch was £1,759. Now, for some context, the MGC, which was a steel-bodied car that was all its own development, was £1,340, a full £400 cheaper than the Scimitar, while a Rover P6, a more upmarket car with a 3.5-litre V8 under the bonnet, could be yours for the same money. So after you spent all that money on the Scimitar GTE, what did you get then? Well, for a start, Ford's lovely 3-litre Essex V6, which might not be the most exotic engine in the world, but It's torquey and it's tractable, and while it doesn't scream to the red line, it gives you what it has from almost no RPM whatsoever. It feels long-legged and gutsy. And let's not forget, sub 1200 kilo body thanks to all that fiberglass, and that means it's quick as well. 0 to 60 will come up in under 10 seconds, and again, the top speed is about 120. Oh, it is genuinely fast. Jeez, I hadn't opened this up properly. That is quick. Wow. And as for the driving experience itself, well, the steering's heavy. There's no getting away from that. When it's parking, it's incredibly difficult, and even when you're just driving along like this, you're not making little fingertippy Lotus type hand movements. You've got to be quite deliberate with it and manhandle it into bends. Let's go down, it's a third through here. The torque drags me around, and away we go. It rides really well, I've got to say. It definitely leans more into the Grand Tourer element, but it is a genuinely well-damped car. This is soaking up this undulating Oxfordshire road with ease. Feels great. Again, the steering is heavy, but it is responsive. The front end does go where you point it, and for what is a big 2+2 coupe from the 60s, it's reassuringly responsive, in fact, and there's a really nice weight to it. I don't want to be rude to it and say that it handles like a Capri, because it doesn't. It feels more sure-footed than a Capri does. It doesn't roll around, it doesn't kick out at the back if you gun it coming out of a corner. It feels quite assured of itself. It's lower and wider than a Capri is. Yeah, you might bottom out occasionally because Scimitar GTEs are quite low for a stock car, but that pays dividends in the corners. Comfort and handling. Exactly what you want in a coupe like this. And indeed, quite apart from its high price tag, the press couldn't find much to complain about with the GTE either. They loved its looks, its character, its performance, the handling, the comfort, and this upmarket feeling interior. And the Scimitar GTE's place in the Hall of Fame was assured when Princess Anne was famously given one by the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen for her birthday. And she could have just used it for a bit in some photos and then tucked it away. But Princess Anne was so enamoured with the Scimitar that she owned 8 more of them. Even to this day, you can't say the words Reliant Scimitar GTE without at least uttering, Princess Anne had one of those, you know. In 1975 came the SE6, which was bigger, had a more luxurious interior, and was now offered with the new 2.8 litre Cologne V6 with more power and even better performance. By the end of production, the Scimitar GTE had sold 14,500 units. Now, I know that's a drop in the ocean compared to the all-star Ford Capri, but let's not forget, this was a cottage industry company building their car out of fiberglass using someone else's bits. It was a runaway success. The Scimitar GTE had sold nearly 10 times as many as the SE4 that came before it. So now, as we come up on 60 years of the Reliant Scimitar GTE, as a classic in its own right and compared to its blue oval rival, how does it stack up? Well, it's faster, it's far rarer, it's roomier and more practical, and to my eye at least, it's better looking. And also, it's cooler than a Capri, because whether it's a 1.3 right up to the full 3 litre, Ford Capris aren't actually that rare anymore in the context of classic cars. You see them at a lot of shows, but Scimitar GTEs are rare. There isn't anything like the mass following for these as there is for the Ford, and that gives it that extra X factor that we're always talking about here at Classics World, the sort of thing that makes you want to own a car like this. So for me then, the Reliant Scimitar GTE is plastic and fantastic. But what do you think? Have you ever owned a Scimitar GTE? Have you ever owned a Ford Capri? Would you consider one of these instead? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for all future Classics World videos. But for now, I'm just going to burble on home. Oh yes! As any child of the 70s will tell you, vinyl seats on a hot day mean windows down. Didn't have aircon back in the day. This is when men were men and legs were burnt.